The ANC in KwaZulu-Natal today announcing that the school feeding tender awarded to Pacina Retail has been terminated. This, of course, after the company has consistently failed to deliver food to over 5,000 schools in the province. This has been the situation for the past 2 weeks. Of course, there's been a massive outcry, and the Provincial Education Department awarded the tender, it seems, to a politically affiliated person. ENCA's Letiwe Mdluli following the story. She joins us now. Letiwe, so there's been a lot of criticism, so finally we see some action. Talk to us about the main message about why exactly they chose to terminate this tender now. Is it because they were failing to deliver food, or is it because they have suspicions about potential corruption around this tender?
Well, Sally, coming from Begimtolo from the ANC today, he is saying that the main reason why they had to terminate the contract was because the service provider that was chosen by the Department of Education here in KwaZulu-Natal failed to deliver food. So this is the main reason. But they are saying that they're going to be investigating some of the other reasons to find out whether there was any wrongdoing in awarding this main contractor the 2 billion rand tender. Some other things that came out from the briefing a bit earlier on, because there's been a lot of questions around the awarding of the tender to this specific company. We do know that this company has never worked in this field before. This was their first contract providing food to the over 5,400 schools in KwaZulu-Natal. So a lot of people had been questioning why the Department of Education would give such a massive tender to a company that does not have any history in delivering food to schools. So the Begimtolo did say that they're going to be looking into this. All the investigations that are currently ongoing are still there, and they're going to basically find out whether anything will be done to have someone or hold someone accountable for this. But he is saying that for now, people can just calm down because the tender has been terminated, and they will be looking into then going back to the old system where each and every service provider that was working with the Department of Education before will then have to deliver food to the schools. Right now, we do know that some of the schools still don't have food, so it's just a matter of now delivering that food, and they're going to be going back to the old system. But a bit earlier on, when Begimtolo was giving us a briefing at the ANC provincial offices here in Durban, this is what he had to say.
In particular, we've also noted the submissions from the African National Congress Youth League and the Congress of South African Students, COSAS. Following from the above, the ANC has met with the ANC deployee, MEC Mbali Fraser, to go through submissions from the people of this province. She also gave us a feedback based on her assessment of the rollout of the program during visits to a number of schools. After the submission from the MEC, we have agreed that it is evident that the program is near to a total collapse, and drastic measures must be taken. This program is not an act of charity, but a bold step to achieve social justice for the most vulnerable in our society. Therefore, the ANC has evaluated all relevant material facts. It has come to a determination that there are serious breaches resulting in the nullity of the National Schools program, nutrition program. The ANC has therefore directed its government to take urgent remedial action to restore the program that will result in schools getting all the necessary food items based on specified menu for all 5 days in a week. These remedial action must include, but not limited to, the following: that the current contract must be terminated immediately within the framework of the service level agreement, that the department must approach the High Court on urgent basis, seeking that this termination be made an order of the court.
Has there been any explanation as to why the previous system, which I understand involved a lot of different tenders, was changed to give the entire responsibility to one group? I mean, to feed, nearly over 2 million children. That's a massive amount of logistical work to get food to all those areas.
Well, Sally, that's been the question for the past 2 weeks. Why change a system that works? And why would you award just one person such a massive tender, especially in KwaZulu-Natal? There's a lot of ground to cover. And in speaking to service providers from different districts across the province, they did say that it was quite surprising that one person would be able to cover such ground. If you look at the northern parts of KwaZulu-Natal, it's a huge area to cover. And also there's the south, and then there's the eThekwini districts. It's just a lot. And when we posed this question to the Department of Education when they had a media briefing about a week ago, one of their reasons was that this main service provider met all their specifications. One of those specifications was that the person who would be awarded the tender would have to have a big warehouse to store the food. And those service providers, those third-party service providers would then have to go and pick up the food at that warehouse. And unfortunately, most of the former service providers could not provide the service, and this is why the tender was then centralized and given to just one person. But of course, they have failed to do this, and now the Department of Education has to answer as to, did you actually go and inspect this warehouse? Did they actually have a warehouse to provide this? And did they have warehouses across all districts? Because it's quite a huge province and a huge place to then have service providers to pick up food. If you're from the eThekwini district, you cannot be traveling to the southern parts of KwaZulu-Natal just to pick up food for about 2 days or 4 days. So those are some of the reasons or answers that we need from the Department of Education. But unfortunately, they haven't been forthcoming. They are still not basically taking any of our calls or answering any of our questions. But in the briefing today, we did ask Begim Dolo about the reasoning behind giving this main service provider, because there's also allegations that the person is politically affiliated to the ANC, which the ANC in the province has denied, saying that no, this person is not politically affiliated to them. It was just a matter of he had the capacity and they gave it to him. But they are saying that since he's failed, they do know some of the reasons behind the logistical issues that the main service provider that was chosen was facing. They are saying that he was working with the SPAR group before, but that relationship fell through, and then SPAR pulled out of that contract. So those are some of the reasons that they gave today when we posed that question to them. But this is what they had to say.
Zinizungu owns pastors, not one. Owns pastors. It's just that we can't mention some of his pastors. I know we have gone to some of his pastors here in KZN. Here, I've just said that letter of SPAR that was not signed, that says he doesn't owe SPAR stores in KZN. That's nonsense. He owns one of the biggest super SPAR stores in KwaZulu-Natal. Now he owns SPAR stores. It's not even in the Eastern Cape, in big towns. He owns SPAR stores. It's not true that he doesn't own SPAR stores. This guy, because is a franchisee of SPAR, he went to SPAR and partnered with SPAR, and then his according to the department, his strength was that he had a support of SPAR in terms of logistics and capacity to deliver. But what happens? Whatever happens between him and SPAR, because it seems after the award, the contract between him and SPAR, the relationship literally collapsed. You see, then SPAR said, I can't deliver anymore for you. And then you must also pay upfront and all those things. Then it changes the whole landscape.
Visibly agitated there. And also there's that letter from SPAR saying, look, we agreed to help with the pilot phase, but we can't help you with the whole thing. So it really is a complete mess. And more than that, of course, there are millions of children going hungry. What is the latest on food supply to these schools? Did they get food today? We know it's a long weekend coming up, but will these children at least be fed on Tuesday when they go back to school?
Well, Sally, interestingly enough, just this week, we actually saw a video from a school in Umgababa, which is in the southern parts of Durban, and they were complaining about the fact that the food that they were supplied with was rotten. And this is the issue with some schools in the province. And the last time we spoke to the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, they did confirm that 90% of the schools that did not have food when schools reopened for the second semester were provided before. But in checking on the ground, we did visit a few schools about last week, and they were saying that even though they do have food, it's only going to last about a day or two, and then they'll go back to not having food again, because unfortunately not all schools had a surplus of food from the last semester. So for now, some schools do have food, some schools do not, and others are complaining about the fact that the food that they're getting is rotten or nearly expired. So that's the problem right now on the ground. But during the media briefing, Begim Tolo did say that by Tuesday, when everyone goes back to school, they are hoping that every school will have food, more especially because now they're going back to the old system. They are working, or they will be working with the former service providers who are going to go and purchase food from the stores that they used to purchase food from, and then they'll deliver. So they are hoping that by Tuesday, every school will have food. And it's over 2.5 million children in KwaZulu-Natal alone that depend on the school nutrition program. So it's a lot of children that need this much needed food.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much for bringing us the very latest on that story. That, of course, is our reporter in Durban, Lethiwe Mdluli. Now to this.